All right, welcome back to another BJKU AI Strategist Q&A. And today we're going to talk a little bit more about voice packages. So a lot of people, when they get into AI and they hear the hype, listen, I can do an AI voice receptionist and I can charge a couple $1,000s or several $1,000s a month or a couple $100s here and $1,000. The pricing is all over the place, and the real reason why they do a voice bot isn't really clear. So today I want to clarify, what is the reason for an AI voice receptionist? Who do you sell it to? What is it good for? What is it not so good for? And what can you actually charge for something like that? So first and foremost, why do an AI voice bot? Well, I say this all the time in our AI strategist program. We are not product pushers. We are problem solvers. The problem with leading with AI voice is not that it's a bad product or service or anything like that. It's that it's not solving the problem first. So who needs a voice receptionist? Well, one, if a company misses too many phone calls, that's probably missed opportunities left and right. There's a statistic on Google. If you search this, the average American business loses about $126,000 per year simply by not answering the phone. Now, if you think of the plumber who's under a sink with a wrench in one hand, a flashlight in the other, and the phone rings, what's the guy to do? He's not going to answer that phone call. So there's $200-300 down the drain. Multiply that out by a couple of days, a week, months, a year, you can start to see how $126,000 isn't that far off. Now, if you think of a roofer, on the other hand, a roofer who's selling $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 roofs, and they miss a phone call, well, that's a much bigger problem than the $200 plumbing call that came in, right? So one thing that we have to understand about voice bots, and first and foremost, is the question is there even a problem? I have a lot of realtor friends. Over the years, I was the head speaker and trainer for Tony Robbins. I probably spoke to about 200,000 some realtors. I've been to every single brokerage in the North America region. So I know a lot of realtors. And there are a lot of realtors who are like, man, I would love an AI voice receptionist. Here's the problem. Nobody calls realtors. Sorry, realtors, don't mean to insult you. But nobody wants to call a realtor. The only way that realtors get business is when they reach out to people or they get referrals. So they're not getting 20, 30, 40 missed calls per week. However, a plumber is, an electrician might, a roofer might get a couple calls, or if the roofer gets a couple of calls and they miss those calls, that was a really expensive call. Now you can say the same thing about a realtor, but in all actuality, nobody's going to call a realtor, okay? With that being said, who really needs this? Well, anybody with high call volume. We're talking restaurants. We're talking, again, plumbers. We're talking local service-based businesses. One of the things that we found a lot of success with in our little agency is restaurants, where we sell them a $397 a month voice bot that answers the phones. But let me go to problem number 2 now. When do they want that AI voice receptionist to answer the phone? So I'll tell you, in this new world of AI, there's still a lot of people who are kind of weirded out, creeped out. They're kind of just figuring this out. They don't quite trust it yet, and they probably shouldn't, because AI does hallucinate at times. It does break down at times. It's like any technology. So a lot of people don't feel comfortable with AI voice receptionist answering the phone 24/7. What they want it to do is answer the phone after hours or answer the phone if they can't get to it. So on ring number 5 or 6 or 7, whatever it is, instead of something going to voicemail, it goes to the AI receptionist that does a pretty good job at answering questions, grabbing contact information, making sure they can maybe book an appointment, qualify them, whatever else it is. So if we look at the screen here, there's 4 things that an AI voice really should try to do. Number 1, it needs to be able to answer the call 24/7, right? At 2 a.m., the plumber should not wake up out of bed and go answer the phone if it rings. That sounds a little silly. Now, it might be an emergency. You might have a dispatch thing. I get it. There are certain situations where that's warranted. Now, the other problem is the plumber who is, after a long day's work, he goes home and has dinner with his kids, with his family, and the phone rings. Well, what's the guy to do again? Does he ignore his children and answer that phone and piss off the whole family? Or does he just let it go to voicemail? Nowadays, he doesn't have to let it go to voicemail. He can just let the AI voice receptionist capture that. So there should be 24/7 calling, but if you're going to speak to a potential customer or client, for you to install a voice receptionist, you need to understand how many calls are they really getting, how many calls are they really missing, How many calls are they missing that actually were big bucks or big money? And then finally, it's like, what did they really want it to do? So once you clarify that, now you can say that, okay, now that we understand when we want to call, now we want to do, what do we want it to do? And that's where the second piece comes in, which is what I like to call lead capture and qualification. Now, what that means is when somebody calls in, it's going to qualify that person and ask a couple of simple questions. I mentioned in one of our chat package videos that the qualification for someone who wants a new roof probably means that they need to be the homeowner. So someone who's renting a house can't just go buy a new roof on a house that they don't own. It's very similar with a lot of services, whether it's pest control or something along those lines, right? So you have to qualify that prospect or potential customer lead, whatever you want to call it, right? And so it's going to ask a couple of questions and it's to screen that. But here's the other piece it needs to really do, and this might sound a little silly, but it needs to capture the information of the person who's calling. Now, I've been a business owner multiple times now. I started, built, and sold 3 7-figure businesses of my own. I know there's been times that I had some of the best office people on the planet. They would pick up the phone, they'd answer every question, was rock star, and at the end, they'd hang up the phone, they'd be like, shoot, I didn't get their phone number. I didn't get their name. I didn't get their email. It happens to the best of us. But AI will not even continue the conversation until it gathers name, phone number, email. And that's incredibly important to go into that business's CRM or just customer relationship management software or just a Google spreadsheet, whatever it is. So 2 things there, lead capture and qualify. Next, the question is, do they want it to book appointments for them? And this can be good, it can be bad. It really depends on the business. But this is one of the things that voice packages can do really well and probably should do really well. And it should make sure that it notifies and follows up with people. So say you call, it qualifies you, it gathers your information and says, by the way, would you like to book an appointment? Yes, I would. Great. It books an appointment. It puts it on the calendar. It notifies the right people. And then it sends them a confirmation text message. Hey, thank you so much for booking with ABC Plumbing. Thank you so much for booking with Johnson's Roofing. We'll see you on XYZ date at this time. If you have any questions, here's where you can reach out, all that, yada, yada. So now you're really improving the customer experience. But then the last part here is really important. You need to set rules for your AI voice bots to make sure it knows when to hand it off to a human being. So a couple of our clients want AI to answer 24/7, but if there's a problem or there's a challenge or someone asks a question, it immediately goes and forwards to a human representative. I'd mentioned this before. I just went to the dermatologist a couple weeks ago now and just go, check out the skincare and all the good stuff, right? But when I called the office, when I called the clinic, it was an AI voice bot that answered the phone. It qualified me. It even booked my appointment for me. And the moment I had a question that it couldn't answer and didn't want to answer, it forwarded me right away to the front desk. And I talked to a nice person. She was great. She helped me out. So you need to understand that there are rules inside of the voice prompt that allow you to route those calls in a specific manner. So now, what is the voice package like? When we look at this, what do we charge for something along these lines? Well, I'll give you a couple of examples, but listen to me now. The voice sales, the pricing is all over the map. I know people who are charging hundreds of dollars. I know people who are charging tens of thousands of dollars. So one of the first immediate questions you might have is, how many calls are they getting? If it's 1 call a week, they probably don't even need a voice bot. It seems a little silly, right? If it's 10 calls a week, how many calls are they missing out of those 10 calls? Well, we miss at least half. Okay, well, how much money is that half worth? Well, it's $200, it's $10,000, it's $5,000. Now you might have something there that makes sense for them to spend and invest some money on an AI voice agent. I hope I'm making sense here. I spoke to a young man a couple of months ago, and one of the biggest challenges that they experienced was they way underbid a voice project. They called and reached out to me and said, Steven, I don't need to be in your program. I'm so smart. I just sold a voice agent, a whole voice receptionist for $10,000. I was like, cool, congratulations. Now, shortly after, a couple months after, I heard back from one of their friends, and the guy was miserable. He was so upset. He was so frustrated. He'd been struggling for 6 months. And $10,000 for 6 months, it always boils down to time, right? Was that really worth it and the money? Well, come to find out, he didn't ask the simplest question. How many phone calls does this business take per week, per day? and they were generating 6,000 phone calls per day. So, of course, if you've never built one of these before, you don't quite know that with that much frequency and that many phone calls, it's going to break like every day, every couple of hours. There's always going to be problems. There's going to be challenges. So you have to be on like 24/7 to try to fix this AI voice receptionist and call center that's coming in. So he dramatically underbid the project. It was probably a multi-million-dollar project. He probably needed several software developers to help him with this, but he just didn't ask the simple questions. How many phone calls do you get per week? How many calls do you miss out of those? And then how much are those really worth? Now you can start to see what the value would be in selling this project to somebody else. So listen, I won't go too far into detail here, but if you're more interested in this, we do a webinar almost every week now in this AI Strategist program. You can come join us, find the link somewhere here on the YouTube channel. But I hope this is valuable for you, and I hope it kind of gets your brain thinking a little bit so you can start offering voice packages as well.